again, and welcome to a new edition of the Baseball Talk Radio Show. I'm Gary Mack.
And Rich Baxter over here. How are you, Gary?
I am good, Mr. Baxter. What kind of week have you had?
Had a full week. If you're watching the show on our YouTube channel, you'll probably not know that I'm on a Mac now. I switched over.
Wow.
It took me about 50 years to get a Mac, but I've always wanted one, and I'm really impressed. I was talking to you a little bit before the show. I'd messed around with Linux and things like that, but this is reliable. It's intuitive, and I just can't wait to continue my journey through the Mac ecosystem, so to speak.
Yeah, it's fun. It's I'm also on a Mac, and I have been on a Mac, and it's a lot of people get afraid of it, but it's really not that different. I remember when we got our first Mac, because we were Windows people here, and my wife needed a computer, and she decided she wanted to get a Mac, and we were all like shocked. My daughter, I'm like, whoa, you want a Mac? And we all liked it so much that we ended up getting Macs, and we've had Macs ever since then. That's about, I think 12 years, 15 years, something like that. And I wanted to see how this new Mac Mini is that they're raving about on YouTube, and I gotta say, it's pretty good. And that's the one that you picked up also.
Yeah, the Mac Mini, and I hear they're supposed to be announcing something a couple days from now. Probably about 3 or 4 days from now. They're supposed to have an announcement, so maybe they'll have an upgrade to this already. Who knows?
Well, maybe. Who knows? I know I've got a laptop I've had since 2012, and it's still going strong. In fact, that's what I used to do the shows on, but I really needed to upgrade if people remember some of our shows. So congratulations on that. And you're going to have fun, as you said, going through the Mac universe and trying to figure it out. But it's really, there's minor differences. Programs are called applications. The minimize and maximize and end button is on the left side as you look at the screen instead of the right side. It's just things like that. The icons are great on the bottom of the screen or wherever, and you can move them around as well. Yeah. So it's you can put them on the side, you can put them on the right side, the left side, whatever you like. But I just like it. As you said, it's very intuitive, and I'm so happy you got it, and I wish you all the luck with it.
Thanks. Yeah, and watching baseball programs on it just seems so more vivid, and I just can't wait to continue that journey through the universe of Mac, as you said.
And how did you find the speed? It's pretty quick, right?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't really had a chance. I just hooked it up last night, probably about less than 12 hours ago. I was still hooking it up and out of the box, and but yeah, I love it. Can't wait to watch some games on the screen now. It's like it's like Christmas morning almost.
There you go. Well, Rob Manfred thinks it's Christmas all the time because he's playing around again like you would with new toys on Christmas morning. He's playing around with the rules, and he's partnered. MLB has partners with the Independent Atlantic League, Rich, to test a new rule change, yet another one, that could cause fewer strikeouts and home runs. Now, I thought they wanted more offense. I'm so confused by what this guy is trying to do in this game. Starting August 3rd, the pitching rubber in the Atlantic League, which is an independent league, will be moved back 12 inches from 60 feet 6 inches to 61 feet 6 inches, according to a release by MLB on Wednesday. MLB determined that the additional foot would be the minimum interval needed to evaluate a change in mound distance. MLB's objective with this change is to cut down on the surging strikeout and home run numbers and inject more contact hitting and base path action into the game, which fans have complained about in recent years. I don't see how they're gonna. I don't see how it's going to cut down on strikeouts. These guys swing at anything anyway. So a good pitcher, I mean, it's got to travel an extra foot. It's gonna. Is that gonna make 100 miles per hour fastball 98 miles per hour then? And is that fair? I mean, I don't know. Oh, I do not hear you, Rich.
Sorry about that. I turned my cough button on there. But yeah, I was saying, is that going to make the pitcher, uh, cause the pitcher to have adjustments where he's going to be injured, perhaps? It opens up a whole can of worms that don't need to be opened. I concur with you. I don't know why they're toying around with this game so much. I kind of do, but I don't agree that they should. Um, they're looking at this game and trying to take it apart, sort of like a Frankenstein type of thing, and tailor it to suit their needs and whatever those needs are. There's no baseball fan that I've ever seen that complains about the game. Number one, if they want to look at how they're ruining the game, look to their politics, look to what they're doing off the field. Stay focused on baseball, MLB, and that's what we keep saying every week. I hate to sound like a broken record and an old get off my lawn guy as well, but you know, don't tinker with what's not broken. You go out and try to fix a new car, you're going to end up breaking it.
Well, it's very true. And what is? I mean, he come out and said he wanted quicker pace of play and he wanted more offense. Now this is cutting down on the offense, and if I don't understand what his game is. No pun intended, but I don't understand what he's trying to do. I don't think he knows what he's trying to do. Um, it's like they're throwing all these rule changes against the wall because fans complain that there's no lack of, that guys strike out too much. Well, maybe they should teach him how to hit better. Maybe they shouldn't be worried about the home run swings and teaching these guys to have these angles upwards. Maybe, they should work better on pitch recognition or something. I don't understand. And why lower the mound? I mean, why move the mound back? As you said, then a guy's going to try to throw harder and hurt themselves. I don't like this at all, and this is going to be a mess. I mean, what are they going? August 3rd. So you're going to play a game on August 2nd in the Atlantic League, and it's going to be 60 feet 6 inches, and then they got to fix the mounds overnight in all the stadiums to be a foot. That's a big job. You just don't. That's a crest of the hill, like the where the rubber is. You move it back, then you got to move the mound back. You've got to adjust it. I think, like you said, I think it's gonna guys are gonna get hurt because I guess that's why they test it in the Atlantic League because it's independent, so they don't really care. Yet they want the association with the MLB, so that's why they'll do it. But it's almost like they're cows being led to slaughter or whatever. But I don't like it. I don't like any of the rule changes he's made so far. I don't think it's good for the game.
No, not good at all. All these changes are not inspired by anything. They're not called upon by fans. It's not like they took a poll of fans and said, what did you like to see about the game? What would you like to see? You're going to get a million different responses, none of which will probably add up to be one reason or another, a reason to change the basic premise of the game.
Right, exactly. And I guess it doesn't seem to bother him much, though.
No, and he doesn't face much criticism from either owners, fans. I know there is a small segment of fans that are out on Twitter and things like that that have a minor voice. But by and large, he's getting away with things that, former commissioners would have been roasted for, all around the, both sides of the coin. So I don't get it. I just don't. But, it's like trying to fight a mountain. You're not going to, it seems like there's no accountability or responsibility, and he's getting away with everything he does and proposes and his entourage.
Yeah, and the owners aren't seem to go against him. So I don't know. I guess we have them to blame as well for all of this. Well, Rich, we did have some good news this week. There was a no-hitter thrown as Carlos Rodon of the White Sox threw one against the Cleveland Indians after losing a perfect game in the ninth inning. That's a killer. He was perfect through 8 1/3 innings. He hit Cleveland catcher Roberto Perez with a pitch on the foot with 2 strikes and 1 out in the ninth. That would be the only blemish to his no hitter. He still got the no hitter, but one bad pitch and he lost a perfect game, but still got a no hitter under his belt.
Yeah, that's a certainly great accomplishment. And the perfect game is so rare, and we're going to talk about another rare thing that happened to baseball this week a little later. But it's so rare that you can almost not bank on seeing it in a season, maybe 2 seasons. But I guess he'll take it.
Sure. I don't even know when was the last perfect game. Was it Holiday?
I believe so. Let me look up while we continue our talk here. But yeah, they're not very often. Probably one of the rarest occasions in baseball. Let's see. Scroll through the list here, and I'm still working this Mac, so
It's still new.
yeah. Perfect games. Let's see. I'm on
Yeah, they're so tough because it's anything could go wrong and you can get it. I still do. Sometimes I cringe a little bit when a guy's got a no hitter, but he's got like 6 walks in the game. Like to me, that's kind of a blemish, if you will, to it. But hey, it counts unless you do it in a one of these stupid 7-inning doubleheaders now. I don't know if you know this, but I was told yesterday that if somebody throws a no hitter in a 7-inning game, it counts as a shutout, but not as a no hitter.
Oh, interesting.
That's I don't know how true that is, but it came from a reliable source, so I am assuming uh, that is the rule. But how stupid is that?
That makes sense because they're not officially in a 9-inning game. I did find out the last perfect games, and they happened in 2012. There's 3 of them, believe it or not.
Oh wow!
April 21st, Philip Humber for the Chicago White Sox. June 13th, 2012, Matt Cain did it for the Giants. And the last time one was thrown was August 15th of 2012, full 9 years ago. Felix Hernandez of the Seattle Mariners had one. Then before that, it was Halladay in 2010 with the Phillies. So kind of rare. And they look like they happened in bunches around 2012.
Yeah, and not since then.
Nope. There was a
But
stretch of time, 2004, Randy Johnson threw one. Then you had to fast forward 5 years till Mark Burley got his. So
hmm.
Yeah.
And they're in the books, the history books. Nobody can take them away from the people, and it's something to be very proud of if you're a pitcher. And talking about history books, Rich, you were unavailable, but I did an interview with a author, David Krell, who has a new book out, and it's called 1962 Baseball in America in the Time of JFK, and he breaks down the year 1962 and breaks it down by month. Pretty interesting the way he did it, and all the happenings in the month, and how all of that tied in, and with baseball as the part of the background, and the NASA first space launches, and if you don't mind, let's take a listen to that interview. And joining me this week is author David Krell, author of the new book, 1962 Baseball in America in the Time of JFK. David, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about how this book came about.
You'll recall that I wrote a book about the Brooklyn Dodgers called Our Bums. And that book was born in a writer's workshop at a place called Media Bistro, which is a continuing education school in New York. And when that book was published, I said, gee, no one's ever written about the 62 Mets and 62 Colt 45s in depth. I wonder if there's a book there. So I brought that idea to another workshop taught by the same guy, a literary agent named Ryan Fisher Harbage, a terrific mentor. And he mentored me and said, David, I understand you're a baseball guy. Books with bigger topics get bigger readerships. So think about it. So I came home that night and I started to research 1962. And I knew about the Cuban Missile Crisis. I knew about To Kill a Mockingbird. I knew about John Glenn. I didn't know the 40 or 58 topics and subtopics that I found. And I said, I think there's a way to string these together. And the only way that I could figure out in terms of organizing it coherently, Gary, was to do it by month. And the common thread was the baseball season. So January has a chapter, February has a chapter, and so on.
Well, in the book, you talk a lot about the events of that year and whatnot. You also talk about, of course, baseball, and we talk about the creation that year of the Mets and the 45s, the Houston 45s, Colt 45s. And I wonder if you talk a little bit about that, about Judge Roy Hoffhines.
Gary, I'll let you in on a secret. When the Sabre National Convention was in Houston in 2014, I took a day off from the seminars and the lectures. I hopped in a cab and I went to the University of Houston. And the University of Houston has George Kirksey's archives. Kirksey was a public relations guy who helped the team get off the ground. And you'll remember that the Houston Buffaloes played for many, many years in Houston. Houston was a great minor league town, but here was an opportunity. Now, what I found was a treasure trove, really. Demographic studies, memos, letters, team newsletters, ownership percentages and breakdowns. And I had never seen anything like this ever in terms of researching a team and having the actual founding documents at your disposal. So I was able to tell the genesis of that Colt 45s team and couple that with the Mets. And what I tried to do in the Mets chapter is give you a little slice of all of these different players, whether it's Joe Christopher or Rod Caneal or Choo Choo Coleman. It would have been unfair of me to just focus on 2 or 3 players. And how many times can we talk about Marv Throneberry? I wanted to talk about some of the guys that you might not have remembered, like Gene Woodling or Richie Ashburn. We know Richie Ashburn was a terrific ball player. Doesn't really get talked about in terms of the 62 Mets, maybe as an aside. So I wanted people to remember that. And regarding Houston, well, Judge Roy Hoffhines was really the dominant force behind the Astrodome, behind the team. And the book opens with the Houston VIPs shooting guns into the ground as a groundbreaking for what will be the site of the Houston Astrodome in '65.
David, in this book, you weave masterfully the the culture of the times and television, movies, and baseball. Talk a little bit about that.
Gary, yes, I combined pop culture with the baseball and also inserted a lot of history. There's JFK, Cuban Missile Crisis, Jackie Kennedy giving a televised tour of the White House, all to combine in this amazing year of progress and optimism for America.
You write a lot about Bo Belinsky, who, for those that don't know who Bo Belinsky is, look him up in Google or read this book because it'll tell you a lot about him. He was a young pitcher that burst onto the scene in 1962. He threw a no-hitter, was for the Los Angeles Angels, became an instant celebrity, and enjoyed the fame, the fortune, the nightlife, all that came with it. He dated starlets, Kim Novak and Margaret, to name a few. He was engaged to Mamie Van Doren, who was the it girl of that era, one of the it girls of that era. And the team kind of put the kibosh on that. And he self-destructed, you might say, in his career by drinking and partying and who knows what else he may have done. He died relatively young, in his early 60s, I believe. Speak a little bit in his later life. Did he ever get the stability he was looking for? And quite an interesting story.
He had a stable influence, sure, based on people I talked to who knew him in his 50s later on, and he craved that. But the damage had been done. He definitely had been estranged from families. He had 3 marriages, didn't work out. I don't believe there was a relationship with the children after a certain point, which is sad. And like you said, he died at a relatively young age, and it's one of those stories that deserved to be told.
It certainly has, and you do it well in this book. You also talk about a lot of the other TV shows of that year that came about with Route 66,
Uh-huh.
and the Rifleman, and you talk a lot about uh, the Flintstones and Hanna-Barbera, and another fascinating part of the book.
Well, the most revealing and surprising thing to me, Gary, was researching Route 66, because the first episode that I chronicle in chapter 1 is about a white supremacist. And you can take that script, I believe, and make that TV show today without changing one word, and it will be just as relevant, if not more so. But remember, this is coming out less than 20 years after World War II. So I can only imagine what the impact was then. And I talk a little bit in the book about the controversy surrounding the subject matter and the production, but I couldn't find any feedback about the show after it aired.
Oh, of that exact episode. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. Um, you talk a little bit about Chuck Connors in the book, the Rifleman, and his career in baseball. A lot of people would know he played Major League Baseball.
He played for the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of the Dodgers and the Houston Colts, you mentioned Bob Aspromonte, who I always thought it was an interesting character. he fell in love with Houston when he played there, and he still lives there, I believe, if I'm correct. And if I think I'm correct in saying that he was the last Brooklyn Dodger to play in the major leagues. Well,
I the last connection to that might be true. I'd have to
yeah,
research. I believe that to be true. And he
yeah,
was
I
great.
think so.
He gave me an hour of his time. We chatted. He loved Hoffheinz. He loved playing in Houston. The fans were fantastic. He just went on and on about what a great city it was to play in.
And you cover some of the politics of the era, and most specifically the Cuban Missile Crisis,
Sure.
and what a tense time that was for this country. And I don't think people reading in a history book don't realize the tension and what it was like at that particular time. I mean, I can remember them, in school telling us to go under the desks if there's a nuclear attack. We were very close to a nuclear war.
Yeah, Gary, you're spot on. I talked to people who lived through that time, whether they were adults or children, and now grown up, and they said exactly what you said, that the world was watching. And until Kennedy gave the speech to the nation, nobody knew what the hell was going to happen. And then there was some clarity, and then they really didn't know what the hell was going to happen. But one of my favorite parts of the book, Gary, is the conversation between Eisenhower, former President Eisenhower, who had requested to be called general, and Kennedy. They had this phone call. I think they actually had two phone calls, but there's one that's on YouTube, and Kennedy is seeking the counsel of a predecessor. And I can't think of, maybe you go back to Lincoln and Washington, but here are two giants in terms of American history. One led us through World War II. One was a World War II hero, became one of our greatest presidents, if you talk to certain historians. And what a time, and what an opportunity to take a peek into history by going on YouTube and playing that audio. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And then to go to Boston, to the JFK Museum, and look through the papers, the memos that have now been declassified, was an amazing revelation.
I have to tell you, the older I get, the sometimes the more amazed I get when I look back
Yeah.
at history, only to the fact, not of the stuff that was happened in my lifetime, but that what I'll give you an example. I remember as a kid going to an old timers game,
Mm-hmm.
and there was guys that played in the 30s and the 40s, and
Right.
oh my God, that was so long ago,
Right.
and it was only like 25, 30 years. And when you think about it now, these guys that played in the 70s are those same people.
Right.
And just going by your book, it was 100 years to the Civil War.
Right.
And now we're 70 something years almost from World War II. And
Right.
it just I don't know what it is, but it just amazes me how far. I can remember when Kennedy was assassinated and they said they were sealing the wreckage for 50 years. And I thought, I was 11.
Right.
I thought, 50 years, we'll never see that open. And here we're beyond that. So it just amazes me, the things that have changed in time and technology. And as you said, it's amazing to hear these things and to see these people on video on YouTube, or listening to them.
Right.
It's not just a picture in a history book. We can actually watch them walk in uh, and the way you chronicle a lot of that stuff in the book is just amazing.
Thank you, Gary. What I tried to do was give you a slice of life. This is a taste of what life was like in 1962. And I opened the book with these two fictional characters that are really archetypes for Americans and what they do at the end of their day in terms of TV shows that they watch. And then chronicle the rest of the year. February, we have John Glenn, and then we have the baseball season, et cetera. And just giving you a taste of what life was like, whether you turned on the television, went to the movies, read a book, turned the page of the newspaper. And I couldn't believe no one had done this book. I could not believe that 62 hadn't been chronicled in baseball or in history. I've seen books as you have on 68, 69, 73, 76, 86 Mets, but I hadn't 77, the Bronx is burning, but I hadn't seen one about 62. And I kept looking, I said, someone's got to, even after that class, when I came home, the first thing I did was go on Amazon. I said, somebody had this idea. There's no possible way. And when I saw that it hadn't been done, or at least not the way that I wanted to do it, then I was off to the races.
Uh, yeah, it's amazing that, and again, remembering all of the historical things that went on, and I guess when you're living through it, you don't really know its history until
Wow.
afterwards. And but to see it all in one spot like that, I was really amazed. I said, "Is that year? Was the same year that happened, and that happened?" I'd be remiss though if I didn't touch a little bit on the amazing Mets of '62, and thank you for including Joan Payson, who seems to
Yes.
be the forgotten woman or person in Mets history.
I
Just
agree.
talk a little bit about Mrs. Payson.
Well, we talked about her when I came on your other show and
Yes.
talked about the New York Mets and popular culture, and we discussed her art philanthropy and some other philanthropies that she was involved with. Um, Look, I believe, as you do, she belongs in the Hall of Fame. My top two people who are not in, for reasons passing my understanding, Charles Ebbets and Joan Payson. Uh, First woman, not the first woman to own a baseball team, but uh, the first New York team she's responsible for in terms of post Dodgers and Giants. What would the world have been like? What would the Mets have been like after the Dodgers and Giants if she was not at the helm? Would we have had this beloved feeling that continues today? I think she's a big part of that. I think she's a tremendous part of that because, as you know, Gary, the Dodgers and the Giants were beloved. The Dodgers had, I think, maybe a more emotional connection to the fans. And some of my friends who are New York Giants fans may disagree with that. But behind me, I have about 200 some odd books about the Dodgers. I have maybe a couple about the New York Giants. So at the end of the day, she was just a wonderful ambassador. And from everything that I found, the team loved her. They loved her. Yogi loved her. They loved kibitzing with her. She wasn't in some boardroom. It wasn't an investment per se. She really loved baseball, and she had her hands in a lot of different investments, movies, horse racing. She was an owner of the New York Giants. She was a stockholder, didn't want them to move. So this opportunity comes about, and how wonderful. And then you have to couple that with Casey Stengel.
The old professor, yeah, certainly. And as we discussed in the past, Mrs. Payson was at every game. As you said, she wasn't in a boardroom, and she wasn't in a luxury suite either. Owners used to sit next to the dugout. They had box seats,
Yeah.
and she was there Oh God, constantly. I mean,
Yeah.
unless she had some charitable event, she was at those ball games and cheering. So the Mets really, the new ownership should consider a statue to her. And
Gary,
as
you,
you say,
Gary, Gary, you and I have talked about that. I've talked about it with
mhm,
other Mets fans. I think there should be statues of William Shea, Joan Payson, certainly. I think you can make a terrific case for Gil Hodges,
mhm.
and you can make another case for Casey Stengel. But first and foremost, Shea and Payson deserve statues.
I think uh, two things. I do agree with you that the Dodgers, I think, are more beloved, though. I have gone a couple of Zoom meetings with the New York Giants
Right.
Appreciation Society, or whatever the name of it is, and there's a lot of fans there
Oh yeah.
that you wouldn't believe. But I think, and I think a lot of it has to do with the book The Boys of Summer. I think that really sold a lot of American on you know in the past tense, but and I think it was just, Brooklyn was a much smaller community, and they were closer to the players than, say, Manhattan with the Giants. I
Gary,
think that had.
I agree with you. When I was writing the Dodgers book, I had the opportunity to spend an afternoon with Roger Kahn at his home in upstate New York, and we went out to lunch. And he was just a terrific fountain of information. He was so courteous, so generous with his time, so encouraging for me to write this story when he had no reason to be, really. And
Mhm.
was just a terrific endorser for me to go ahead. And I try to recall that when you're writing a history book, it's important to try to put yourself in the place of the people. Now, I wasn't alive in 1962, so everything that I did in this book was either through interviews or through research. I didn't have the opportunity to go on memory or recall about a game or a person. But I know Roger did in The Boys of Summer because it's half memoir and half what are these guys doing in middle age. But I think with any history book, it's incumbent upon you to not only recount what game happened on this date and why was it important and who won the World Series and who had a no-hitter. I think it's equally, if not more important, to give it context. What were the people wearing? What was the fashion of the time? Why was the Houston Colt 45's name retired 3 years later? What was it about the Astros name? What was it about Houston? What else was going on? What was going on in LA? And you had Dodger Stadium debuting that year, which was absolutely revolutionary. And I think it's the third oldest ballpark now in the country. You have Wrigley, Fenway, and Dodger
And
Stadium.
Dodger
Dodger
Stadium,
Stadium
yeah.
was 50 years after the other two. And now it's the third oldest. But even now it seems revolutionary.
Hmm. And they just went through a multi-million-dollar renovation to
Right.
bring it up to date. So uh, there's no signs of that ballpark ever going anywhere.
Mhm.
Um, well, David, this has been certainly fascinating as usual, and I believe the book out yet, or is it coming out in May?
It's coming out May 1st. You can
Okay.
pre-order it now on Amazon or Barnes and Noble's website. But University of Nebraska Press is having a sale on baseball books through May 31st, and it's 40%.
Oh,
So I would encourage people to go to the UNP website and not only check out this book, but they have some terrific books on the roster this spring. Tony Lazzari, uh, Dave Parker, some really great authors who have contributed to the scholarship, which I'm planning to put on my spring, summer, and summer reading lists.
well, David, thanks again for your time, and let's chat again. What's next? Are you planning anything new?
Yes, I'm working on a book about 1966 tentatively called Baseball and America in the Space Age. And that will cover the 66 baseball season, which culminates with the Orioles sweeping the Dodgers. So you have a beginning of one dynasty and the ending of another.
I think you're going to start a franchise with these baseball in
Maybe.
America. Well,
We'll,
good
we'll,
luck
we'll
with
we'll see how this one does, but I do like the opportunity to explore a year and see what was going on surrounding baseball and how baseball fits into history and vice versa.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept and fits in with the whole society thing and all of that. So, thank you again for the
Thank
time.
you. Thank you.
And I'm sure we'll talk again in the future with 1966. David Krell, the author of 1962 Baseball in the Time Baseball in America in the Time of JFK. I'm sorry about that.
No problem.
And we'll be back. And we're back and Rich, I hope you enjoyed that walk down memory lane, so to speak.
Definitely, Gary. It's like a walk back in time. Black and white televisions around. No cell
Yeah.
phones, no IMAX, no Mac. But yeah, just a stroll back into time when all we hadn't walked on the moon yet. We hadn't done certain things.
Right.
JFK, Return to Camelot was
Yeah.
happening. Cuban Missile Crisis, even.
Yeah.
What an interesting time it must have been.
I was amazed that I'm old enough that I lived through that year, and I remember the beginning of Houston Colt 45s and the Mets, but I was amazed at everything that happened in that year. I remember the Cuban Missile Crisis and how scary that was, going to school, and we'd have these I guess air raid tests, or whatever you want to, drills, where you'd hide under your desk, and like that's going to do a lot of good against a nuclear blast. But I remember that. I remember the Aurora 7 with Scotty Carpenter and of course John Glenn and all of that. And I've spoken many times about how bad the Mets were, so I remember the 62 season of the Mets. But seeing it all together and then tying it in with like the Flintstones and the Jetsons and things like that, and Hanna-Barbera and what an influence they were. It was just fascinating. So I want to thank David Krell for coming on, and we missed you, Rich, and hopefully the next time you'll be able to join in with us.
Yeah, thank you very much, David. Check his book out on Amazon. You can just spell in 1962 Baseball and America. The book will come right up, published on the University of Nebraska press there, publisher. And as you said, Gary, it'll be out May 1st. Kind of a long book too, 384 pages. So you history fans and fans of the starting up of, like Gary said, the Mets, the expanding Colt 45s down in Houston. What a great time to relive, and you can relive it through this book. So check it out.
I don't think the green screen is going to allow me to. It's mixing in, so there you go. There's a little bit of the cover. You can barely see it. David Krell, Baseball in America in the Time of JFK, 1962. I think you'll enjoy it. Now, we had some issues with the video interview, so the full complete interview is on audio, but they're pretty much the same. So you enjoy it. It's very interesting. And Rich, something else that I found very interesting this week was that the Houston Astros placed 5 players, including 4 starting players, on the injured list Wednesday. Infielders Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman, catcher Martin Maldonado, and designated hitter Yordan Alvarez were placed on the injured list for undisclosed reasons. The team announced utility infielder Robel Garcia joined them. Now, that was the COVID-19 list. And it doesn't necessarily mean the players have tested positive. They could have come into close contact with a person who tested positive or broke the league's health and safety protocols by eating indoors at a restaurant, though the science shows that you have a very little chance from eating in a restaurant, even though the keeping the restaurants closed. The COVID-19 list has no minimum maximum stay, though players who test positive must isolate for 10 days. What I find interesting is nobody canceled their games.
Yeah, it must have been players that weren't integral to the operation of the team, perhaps.
4 starters, 2 all-stars. I think I think I don't know. The Nationals got it, and they canceled the series and the game or 2 for them. The Astros get it. Nothing gets canceled. They've got to play without 4 of their key starters. Bregman was an all-star. Altuve, a former all-star. I don't know about Maldonado and Alvarez, whether they were all-star, but they're in the starting lineup. They're all 4 starters. And yet not a word about canceling a series for the Houston Astros. I almost feel bad for them now. I think they're getting a bad rap all around baseball because of the cheating thing. We spoke about it at the time. I don't think they did anything different than anybody else does. They just happen to get caught, and they're still paying the price for that. But I just thought that was interesting, just to throw out there.
Yeah, the difference in the two teams. Astros not at the 85% vaccination threshold to loosen team protocol. So apparently, if you're a team that has 85% of the players and the staff that already had the vaccination, you get a little free pass, so to speak. But yeah, as you said, I guess who's making these calls? Is it the MLB? Is it who actually comes down and says game or series is canceled? Is I guess
MLB, I think they canceled it for Washington, and last year, remember, we had Miami and who else was it had games canceled, and I don't know, and they're gonna make teams make up games, and I know it's because it's the Mets, but the Mets were scheduled to play the Nationals the first 3 games of the season. Now they're going to play them when they're healthy. And that, to me, doesn't sit right. Doesn't seem totally fair. I think the Phillies played the Nationals the second series, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And one of the games was canceled, I think, because of COVID. And then they played them, but they were still down those 4 or 5 guys. So nothing against the Phillies because they're just doing what they're told to do. But is it fair that they play a team in their division when 5 guys were out? Yet the Mets had a whole series wiped out against that same team when 5 guys were out. It just doesn't seem fair to me. And now the Mets are going to be stuck playing double headers, and I don't know what the dates are, but they could be in the middle of a pennant race. You know what I mean? I know I'm going on because it's the Mets, but I don't didn't think that was fair, the opening series of the year, to cancel it like that. They should have been made to play like they played against Philadelphia, or they should have forfeited.
Yeah, and as you said, you're following the Mets every day, so it doesn't make sense. But the Twins and the Angels just had postponements as well. Saturday night and Sunday's game both postponed due to Minnesota coming down with COVID. Um, and the reasoning was postponed to allow for continued testing and contact tracing involving members of the Twins organization. So I guess, the level of concern of, does everybody have this COVID, or, um, I guess they can't limit it at that point, but they want to just make sure that, maybe both sides of the teams are not getting infected. And it's still something that's serious in the society. Hear of friends and relatives and family members still being affected by this. So, abundance of caution. If you have to cancel a game or two here or there, it's just going to have to be. I mean, um, I don't want to go out into the stadiums. I don't want to go out into a crowd. I was supposed to go to a concert uh, towards the end of the year. And I'm thinking to myself, am I crazy? I want to be close in a tin can with, 25,000, 30,000 people. Am I crazy? Breathing in that air, and, it could be a life or death situation. So you do have to watch yourself. And unfortunately, we're still in this COVID-19, even though people are starting to get more relaxed in this country. Now in Canada and Europe, they're still locked down. It's still very much you don't go outside or we're going to, come for you
Mhm.
type of situation. So, we do want to return to a normal life, and a lot of us here in the US have, but it's far from over.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Canada. As we've spoken about on this show, Toronto's still playing in Buffalo, New York. They're in their AAA minor league club. They're playing in their ballpark this year, and uh, doesn't seem to be any signs of them going back to Canada, which could bring up some interesting questions somewhere along the line. If Canada don't want the team, it's not that they don't want it, but if MLB expands and Canada don't open up the border, will that hurt Montreal's chances? I mean, that's down the road, but interesting that they're not even allowing that to happen. So, um, we'll see. What goes on with that, but I don't know. I just found it interesting that Houston is playing shorthanded or with taxi squad players, and as you said, Minnesota and LA just canceled the series, and the Nationals and the Mets canceled early in the year, and why are they canceling some and not all of them? But who knows? Dodgers got some bad news, Rich. Slugger Cody Bellinger hasn't played since April 5th, and he doesn't seem like he's going to be playing anytime soon. A recent test on his injured left leg revealed a hairline fracture. He landed on a 10-day injured list April 9th, retroactive to the 6th, and at which point it was believed he only had a left calf contusion. The Dodgers seemed optimistic Bellinger would return in fairly short order, but that won't be the case. However, it's not clear how much time the outfielder first baseman will miss. So Cody Bellinger, big offensive star for the Dodgers, and the key to their winning is going to be out for some time.
Yeah, that hairline fracture doesn't sound good, or the fibula, as you said, and it's going to be a big loss for the Dodgers, but they seem to be faring pretty well so far this year. But we'll have to see how they do without Bellinger.
And San Diego is going to be a tough team out there, though they've handled them the last couple of nights pretty easily. Though the one game was pretty exciting, went into extra innings, and had that stupid guy on second that we love so much.
Yeah. Around the MLB again, in some news, a familiar name to you and me, Jay Bruce going to be retiring after Sunday's game against the Tampa Bay Rays for the New York Yankees. He's with the Yankees now, going to end his
Oh,
career. 14 incredible seasons, says he, quote, after 14 incredible seasons, I've decided to make the very difficult decision to retire from baseball. That was a prepared statement he had given to The Athletic. And he went on to say, quote, all I ever wanted to be when I grew up was a baseball player. And to say that I got to live out my dream would be the understatement of a lifetime. This sport gave me more than I could have ever asked for. So Jay Bruce, he's only 34, but he'll be retiring this afternoon after the game against the Tampa Bay Rays on Sunday.
I wonder why he's doing it now. Does it say? Didn't finish out the year.
He just let Aaron Boone know, the Yankees manager, that he was, excuse me, was actually came to the decision at the start of the series. So it wasn't something that apparently he had considered, in the off season. Maybe he did privately, but sort of like Mike Schmidt did for the Phillies many years ago. He just had enough, and just it all came down to one game. And after the game, he said, I'm done. I'm retired. So I guess it depends where you are at in your career, what makes sense for him, but it's just going to call it a season after today.
Wow, that's a shocker. Just because it's like not even a month in
Yeah. Finished
to
the
go.
year.
Yeah, to go through spring training and all of that nonsense, and then to play for to come out, start the year, and then just stop. But good luck to him. Whatever he's made a lot of money in the game, so he should be okay. And I'm sure he's got some other endeavors he wants to get started. So good luck on the rest of his life.
Yeah, he won't be bagging groceries. Trust us.
Well, we might though, if we don't get some donations.
Yeah, yeah. Let's get on the donation. Yeah, please, the listeners, we want to be supported by our listeners. So go on over to our Patreon site. And again, if you don't follow these things, we'll put them in the links for our show notes. You can always email me at rich@baseballtalkradio.com or gary@baseballtalkradio.com. Or our anchor.fm site, anchor.fm/baseball talk radio show. And you can sponsor us right from there. It's just a link that you click. You can go 99 cents a month, $4.99, whatever you like. If you enjoy the show, we'd like to mention you on the show if you're a sponsor. So, let us know if you'd like to do that. If you're a business, you can certainly sponsor us as well. If you want us to give you a mention out on the air, send us an email, rich@baseballtalkradioshow.com or gary@baseballtalkradioshow.com.
Yeah, or you can call us and leave a voicemail at 516-619-6341. That's the voicemail hotline. So you can call that number, leave a voicemail, a question, comment, statement, a rant, anything you like. And if it's clean, we'll put it we'll put it on the air. So 516-619-6341. So we appreciate anything you can do to help us out, to make us be better for you. If it's easier for the production, then the content gets better. And Rich, talk about getting better. There's been some young players that have made quite a splash in this early season. The catcher from the White Sox, Mercedes, he's been having quite a good month on the field hitting. And Akil Baddoo, who was a Rule 5 pick by the Detroit Tigers from the Minnesota Twins, probably one of the best stories of the year. This 22-year-old kid homered on his first swing in the big leagues as his family was in the stands, and less than 2 weeks later time, he added a grand slam, a walk-off single, a 450-foot homer off of Zach Greinke, and a fourth homer. He has a ludicrous 1.342 OPS through his first 29 plate appearances in the majors. And while he obviously won't sustain that, he's forcing a legitimate audition to be a regular in the outfield of the Tigers. He missed nearly all of 2019 due to Tommy John surgery, didn't play in 2020. Despite that layoff and the fact that he's never played above A ball, the Tigers called his name in December, and it may have seemed like a good choice. It was a stretch at the time, but it looks like they made the right decision with this kid.
Yeah, sometimes players can be brought up too early, too late. And if you follow the Phillies, you'll know that because that usually seems what happens. But yeah, it looks like they made the right choice with him.
Come on, Rich. Phillies are starting out pretty good this year.
Well, they did start out pretty good. They were 5-1. Now they're 7-7. So you lost track of them a little bit.
Well, still, it's still above. It's still at 500 and hanging in there. So,
still giving us gray hair. Start off great, then boom, right back into the middle of the pack, so to speak.
How about the Mets? They played now they played 9 games and had at one point they played 8 games and they had 7 postponements. So now they've played 10 games and still have 6 postponements left to make up. So talk about gray hair. DeGrom pitched yesterday. They don't score for him. And then the last inning, they scored a couple of runs, and luckily he got the win. But he's got like an 0.45 ERA, and he's 1-1. Can you believe that? They just don't hit for him at all. But and then they went out and got hammered in the second game. They lost big time. They got snowed out on Friday. So
that's incredible.
Yeah. Well, see, that's something Major League Baseball should look at too.
Yeah.
Figure out a way to, with these stadiums and these areas that I don't know. Either they have to have a dome or they have to keep them on the road for the month of April or something. I don't know what the deal is, but they need to figure out something. Too many postponements and makeup games, and between COVID and the weather, it's crazy. But I've gone on enough.
Yeah, we brought up the perfect game miss this week, and this week we had something even potentially more rare than the perfect game with Joey Votto, first baseman for the Cincinnati Reds, almost pulled off an unassisted triple play, which is more rare than a perfect game, if you can believe that. And it was a bang play, like a triple play has to be usually. Ball hit sharply down the Votto. He tugged the guy off of first and then threw over to third eventually. A lot of people were saying he could have ran over third and tagged the base himself because the guy was already in the dugout. But yeah, triple play in the
Wow. They're rare in themselves. Unassisted is even more rare. I think, I don't know. You'll probably look it up. I think Wamsgans. I don't know how you say it. That was the last guy, and that was like back in the 20s.
believe it or not, no, unassisted triple play was between the Phillies and the Mets in '09. If you remember Eric Bruntlett, who was a second baseman. It was a bang bang play, hit right to him. He tugged a runner out and he tagged, I guess,
The
second.
base.
It was like over in 3 seconds. And after, before you could shake your head and wonder what happened, he pulled up an unassisted triple play. It was the, August 23rd, 2009, as a matter of fact.
Wow.
Yeah, he caught the line drive off of Jeff Francoeur, stepped on second to get Luis Castillo out, and then tagged out Daniel Murphy to finish that triple play. But very rare. So we're talking what?
Yeah.
11 years ago now.
11 years. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I remember. I didn't think it was unassisted, but I'll you get the info right in front of you, so
Yeah,
I'm going with you.
Yeah,
I wouldn't trust my memory.
It's reported as, that was the last. Let's see here. Yeah, that was the last occurrence of it, 2009. So, yeah, very strange and very rare. They have to be
Yeah.
plays because you happens fast and before you know
Right.
it's over. But it seemed like, did you see the play with Votto? It seemed like he was a little surprised before he threw it to third.
No, I didn't see it. So
Yeah, I saw like a brief synopsis online with the highlight. And it seemed like he was a little confused. Like somebody said, throw it to third, like he didn't throw it right away. It was like he caught the ball, tagged the guy at first, came up looking around and had plenty of time, of course, then just threw it over to third. So I don't know. I don't know if he realized what had happened.
he may not have. Sometimes it happens so fast that you don't even realize it.
Yeah, because just his reaction, and we can't play it online because YouTube wouldn't like us. And
Of
right now,
rights.
my Mac Mini isn't really set up to screen share right at this point, but yeah, give it a watch if you can. It's pretty interesting.
I am watching it now, and why did the guy run into the?
I guess he didn't realize that the ball was caught on the fly. Is the only reason I can come up
Because
with.
he ran into the dugout.
Yeah, he was.
In fact, it's if I know Cleveland has two Rosarios. It was Rosario. I think it was the ex-Met, Ahmad Rosario, but they have another Rosario, so I could be wrong. Yeah, it looked like a line drive down at first. He caught it.
Apparently, this was Eddie Rosario.
Okay. He tagged the guy that was leading off of first, and Eddie Rosario scored, but he kept running into the dugout. So that's why he could have run to third base himself.
Yeah. So, yeah, still interesting that the triple play is in effect there. And
Yeah.
we're going to see a triple play every now and again with all the innings and all the baseball that's being played.
But you're right. It happens so fast that you don't even realize it's a triple. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it's so bam bam, and then you sit there trying to figure out. Okay, well that was one out there, and then he And then you usually got to watch it a few times before you realize what the heck happened.
Yeah.
I know that's an intriguing thing. So, congratulations to him though on a triple to Cincinnati on a triple play. So
Eddie Rosario is still wondering what happened this morning when he woke up.
it's odd though, because if you do watch the video, nobody was like telling him go back to the bag, and he was jogging to the dugout like he tagged up or something.
Yeah.
I would not be a happy manager at that point, because that's just I don't know.
Not in the game, obviously.
Yeah. Well, but our heads in the game every week, Rich. So
Yes, it is.
everybody should tune in to us every week here on the Baseball Talk Radio Show. We give you all the information you want to know, and maybe some you don't want to know. So please tune in every week, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button on YouTube, or if you listen to the audio version, which we do, hit the subscribe button on Apple Podcasts or Google Play or Castbox or wherever you get your podcast from. Hit the subscribe button. That way you'll be notified whenever a new episode comes about. And on YouTube, push that bell and hit the subscribe button so you know when a new version of the baseball talk radio show is coming out. So, Rich, I guess that kind of wraps it up for this week.
Very cool. Yeah, we had a full week there, even with the interview. We hope you enjoyed the show. Can't wait for the next one. And everybody enjoy the week out there, and stay safe. Wear your masks. Wash those hands still, even if you've been vaccinated. And stay well. We'll talk to you soon.